So today we're here talking about Gate 10 in human design, or the path of moving from self-obsession to naturalist into being, if we're looking through the gene key lens. And Christine, I thought might be helpful if we start building this conversation around what you see to be true about Gate 10 and what that essence might be as we move into it.
Yeah, I think it's actually interesting. We started with Gate 10. I hadn't really keyed into it until I was doing a little bit of prep. And Gate 10 is a really special gate in human design, right? It sits like if you're looking at the human design mandala, it sits at the very top of that mandala. Um, and it is what we call a roll gate. It is actually the gate from which our human design investigator, hermit, martyr, heretic, and role model actually come from. Each line bears that name. And so it is a particularly powerful gate. It's also a love gate in human design. And so it's just interesting to me that we've started here out of all the places because it isn't really a start place naturally. It's just a particularly interesting gate. Um, and so just to back up briefly, like each human design gate lives inside of the zodiac. So it's might be useful for people to recognize. A lot of people know, how the zodiac, the wheel works, and understanding that this human design wheel sits inside of that might be useful. So
Mm.
where gate 10 is actually it crosses two zodiac signs. It starts in Sagittarius and then the last few days are in Capricorn. So those energies are also part of what we would talk about for gate 10 as well.
I think that actually is really interesting as we see how it moves through each stage. In my looking at this energy, I tend to start with the I Ching and the hexagram. So this gate 10 is hexagram 10. And I have a real affinity for Hilary Barrett's writing on the I Ching. And when I look at how it's moving, you can see it. It has almost these two personalities to it, moving from the start to the finish. And I wasn't aware that it made that pass through um, the two signs. So I love the way she begins and opens up this hexagram and looking at line one of when you realize you aren't where you want to be, move on. And that's such a empowering statement, like to say to anyone. I mean, what a great place to start. You don't like where you are, you have the power to move on. And then as we move through each one of those lines, we are gifted with the different qualities that we would have as we're moving through this place of to gain constancy, freedom, and ease. And in this process, it's a gate I'm really looking forward to. It feels very empowering, for lack of a better word.
That's the perfect word. So gate 10 it lives in our G center, in our identity center. And that center is about love and direction. But gate 10 is a part of our individual circuitry. It's all about self-empowerment, right? And gate 10 is kind of a huge gate that connects very directly to our most powerful gate, to our most in the now gate, and our most intuitive gate, right? Gate 10 is the other end of all of that. So it is all about empowerment. So it's amazing that you use that word because it is a very empowering energy.
Mhm. When I was reading Richard Rudd's work on the 10 key, I loved his idea of, and it just follows this idea of empowerment is accepting our path and staying on it is our greatest form of self-love. And so this idea of stepping into our power, this theme of loving ourselves comes through. And the word that has come up most for me when I'm feeling into this energy of this time coming up is the word courage, because I think it takes courage to step into our own power.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to say about Gate 10. I don't know. I don't know how deep to go. Lois, what are your thoughts about Gate 10?
Um, well, it was interesting just listening to the two of you and your thoughts on it is like from my perspective in coaching and looking at helping people make the changes, the move to something different, and like having this information actually helps us figure out how do you align with yourself? Because we all try to make changes and we go and try and do something that someone thinks is a good idea, but it doesn't work for us because it's not in alignment with us.
Mhm.
So this particular gate seems to be about helping us find where are you? Where do you need to be? And
Exactly.
then the empowerment coming from that rather than going out and just sort of experimenting about what might work. We've got a clearer picture of what won't work as well.
Exactly. And the thing I love about this, and this is, I think, part of the reason we were creating this calendar, is the teaching in human design is essentially that as the sun transits through these gates, which it does every year, it comes through this gate right around this time of year every year. It is bringing through the neutrino stream, which is a quantum physics particle, right? There is energy coming at us all the time from all the heavenly bodies, but the sun is the most powerful. And so that neutrino stream is bringing this gate 10 energy. It's coming through gate 10, the self-empowerment energy. And so each of these 5 day periods that we are, 5.5 day periods that we're looking at in this calendar, carry this energy in support of you, right? So when you know that, oh, right now is a great time for me to do exactly what you were just talking about, Lois, step into my own power, do something that I know to be true for myself, even though people in my world are telling me otherwise, like this is a perfect time to do that, right? And this also, gate 10 is the beginning of this period of 8 hexagrams in a row that all carry the bottom trigram of the joyous lake, the joyous, right? And so I think it's interesting that we think about this time of year, this holiday time of year, as a joyful time of year. In part, we are stepping into this joyousness of the energy of these gates. So it's there every year for us to support us to be happy and joyful and empowered.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm glad you brought that up, Christine, because I see our entering each new gate as this stream of a gift really coming in. And what I've discovered after following these for a number of months and tracking them on this calendar is whatever I think it may be that's going to come up for me to help me learn that gate is never what it is. It always comes in, it's like when you get the astrology reading and you hear that you're going, you're going to face this transit and X is going to be available to you. You're always sure, oh, I know it'll be about my job. And then it's about your relationship, right? And I think this is true for these periods. Is it not only does it impact every bit of my life, but it impacts every bit of everyone's life all around me. So I'm surrounded by people also influenced by this power of gate 10.
Yeah. And I think that's really true too. And it's helped me. It's a thing that I've been doing. I haven't been tracking this calendar as long as you have. But for me, it's easier in many ways to watch the folks I'm close to and around a lot and see what's going on for them. And you're right, this is a collective energy. And so often I can see through them more easily than I can see in my own little world. So I think it's really useful to think of it that way too.
Yeah. This is a bit to lean on you here, Lois, with this question, but something occurred to me while I was thinking about what we were going to do this morning. And I was thinking, gee, my state as I enter, that new period is going to be influencing how that gate impacts me. So if I'm in a state of crisis, I'm going to experience that gate in a very different way than if I was feeling quite coherent. And of course, there's a lot of, in between. And I was just thinking about, as a developmental coach, like, if someone approached this gate and they were in a state of crisis, whether their own doing or the other experiences, what might be a way to kind of come into that? Because their experience of stepping into their power may not equal feeling great. It may feel really frightening.
Might feel really uncomfortable. Yeah, it's well, I think in this is we're looking at creating a lot of like using self-awareness, is that ability for a person that's stepping into a situation to recognize that they're not in their most stable place right now. And to be able to take a step back, take a breath, and take the pressure off of what's supposed to happen. Because when we're looking at this, there's patterns. And we need to recognize and sort of maybe almost surrender to some of these patterns, because we've been living them all of our lives. And a lot of the time we're like a fish swimming up against the current. And so maybe like recognizing that maybe, no, we need to get more in alignment with the current. So there's more acceptance of what's happening, which I think would take pressure off of any one of us stepping into new space. Go, I just need to wait and see what's going to happen here. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about chemotherapy extracts that support the nervous system when I was considering this, because one of the ideas I've been playing with as we're working with these transits and taking notes on the calendar is um, the role of the nervous system in each one, and how we might support our nervous system as each new energy comes in, and to be able to receive the gift from a place of harmony rather than in fight or flight, which is how most of us walk through this world. And so there's an extract hawthorn, which supports the heart in the physical body, but on the emotional plane, it impacts that energetic heart. And that's where I see this word courage coming up, because when we're facing even our own embodiment and our own accepting our own path and owning it, that takes an incredible amount of courage to step into that. And the one thing I've found about this extract is it doesn't give you the power, but it helps you to see your own. And I think that would be a beautiful thing for anyone that wants to kind of walk with us through these transits with all the tools possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when you said courage, there was something that came to me when I was reading about Gate 10, and then the dealing with unknown, that I don't know,
Yeah.
and to have the courage to not know.
Mhm.
And so that just when, you know, there's so much expectation on us in our society to know, and to know right away. And people are afraid to say, I don't know. And maybe just to find some safe spaces to say, you know, gee, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or I'm curious about that too. Let's find out.
Yeah.
And sort of start building the capacity to be with that, which I think would help build the courage.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, gate 10 is a gate in our identity, which is our higher self, right? This connection to our higher self, our higher knowing. And oftentimes I find that when people say they don't know, they really do know.
Mhm.
They just aren't listening and following that higher self knowledge, right? And so again, this energy is here for us right now to help support us in not just hearing that higher self, but having the courage to act on that higher self knowing.
Yeah. Yeah, Christine, that's really important. And I think that I don't know can also be I don't want to know or I don't want to hear because our conditioning that we've been packed in over our lifetime is telling us we need to be someone else or do some and I just got out of a conversation where I was experiencing this and this person had themselves just twisted up into a place of fear and the reality was they knew the answer, their higher self knew the answer, it was clear, but they didn't want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And it creates all this internal resistance, right? Because
sure.
at your unconscious, subconscious level, you know exactly what you need to do. And every other part of your body is resisting it,
Yeah,
right? You know?
yeah, yeah. So I love that the translation for the I Ching hexagram of treading, just keep going, right?
Yeah.
Just keep going forward. Take the next step that you can take the next day, and you're going to, face all the tigers and face and it's going to be fine. But you have to keep moving forward at a pace that is compassionate for you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll just say one other thing that comes up, you're talking about gemotherapy. I feel like one thing that we could do very easily is reconnect to our animal nature in this very simple somatic way, which is shaking things off. And I mean that very literally, right? Like when we take a moment to literally shake our body, move our body, shake that energy out of us, it makes a difference, right? After a lion chases a gazelle, that gazelle, if he doesn't get caught, he shakes all of that,
Yeah,
adrenalized energy off.
yeah,
We too need to do that. And when we don't, it just sits in our body, right? Making the next decision even harder, right? So truly like find a quiet place, just shake your body, get that energy out. I think it's a hugely helpful practice to get back to hearing that higher self,
yeah.
right? And being willing to follow it.
I love that tool. Anything else that needs to be said about this game?
No, I mean, there's so much about Gate 10. I think it's really a powerful one. People should read a little bit about it. But I think the key takeaway for me is this piece about the joyousness, right? Like this is really something that we struggle with in the modern age of being joyful, right? Like there's so much seriousness. So take what you can this season around joy and try to be as joyful as you can because it's healing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And let yourself be yourself.
Yeah.
And that'll probably happen more likely.
yeah. And the courage to do that is always
Yeah.
right inside. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful. Thanks, ladies.
Awesome.